Hello and welcome everyone to Birthing New Earth, where courageous individuals are stepping up to ask the hard questions, excuse me, look at the tough decisions and make the responsible choices necessary to leave a sustainable living legacy of thriving life on this planet for the next 7 generations and beyond. I'm your host, Kathy Forrest, founder of Celestial Forest Institute, and we're here today. It is my great pleasure to be here with Dr. Gina Sager. Gina, welcome. So glad to have you back on the calls. Gina is a retired board certified surgeon, named one of Baltimore's top docs in October 2000. She permanently left the practice of traditional medicine, Western medicine, back in 2002 to explore her longtime interest in holistic healing. She studied and practiced Buddhism in the Tibetan tradition, and has studied the ancient wisdom traditions, including traditional Chinese wisdom and the 5-element theory at Thai Sophia Institute. She's a 200-hour yoga teacher trained in integrative yoga, and she holds a 60-hour certificate in Ayurveda from her work with Amadea Morningstar, and has completed 2 years in the Eden Energy Medicine training. Gina's been on a lifelong journey to find an open heart and to heal physical, emotional, and spiritual wounds. She strives to teach from her awakened heart and from her own experiences rather than simply sharing things she's learned intellectually. Her scientific background lends a new perspective, excuse me, to some of the more esoteric practices and enhances her explanations of modern and energetic medicine. In Ayurveda, it is said that the best physician is the one who teaches patients to care for themselves. In this spirit, Gina believes that her heart's work is to share what she has learned on her own transformative journey, offering others sacred space and the opportunity to reconnect with their own deepest nature, empowering them to care for themselves using a blending of ancient and modern ways to remember wholeness. And yes, I have to echo all of that I know that this is the platform that Gina teaches from, and I love her for that. And I'm so excited. When I think about Gina, and I think about you, Gina, I'm talking about you like you're not here. I always think that you're like the perfect blend of all the esoteric teachings combined with the science to back it up. And you know, then you just kind of spice it up with your own story, and it's just delicious. So, and just to give everybody a taste of that deliciousness, our topic today is crisis as an opportunity. Lord, do we have an opportunity right now? Embracing the darkness to embody the light. And I just love that. That gives me chills. So, friend, what led you to the understanding of stress and trauma in the personal and collective disease in the world today? We could spend all day on that one.
We could indeed. First of all, I really want to thank you for putting this beautiful event together, because it is way, way timely, isn't it? Mm-hmm. It's really what we need. So thank you for having me. So I'll try to keep my story short. Other folks have heard there are plenty of ways to hear the long version of my story. But the short version from this perspective is really just to say that after practicing general surgery for a number of years, I left sort of suddenly, not really understanding exactly why and how, but understanding afterwards how devastated I was, how much of a toll simply the practice of surgery, the overwhelm of the responsibility, the endless trauma and dis-ease that I was responsible for, and consequently neglecting my own trauma and dis-ease, just led to sort of a state of burnout. And again, I didn't really understand that. I sort of thought, I'm done with this, I need to get out. And I honestly believed that just leaving surgery was gonna just magically make me all fine.
Mm-hmm.
So the first comeuppance was that I did not have any idea what condition my condition was in. And that was pretty surprising to me. I left straight from my surgery office after I closed the door to study with John Kabat-Zinn for the first time, and I really could not breathe in a meditation retreat. All parts of my body hurt. I couldn't eat food without having my stomach hurt. I couldn't turn my head to see who was behind me on the beautiful campus of Omega Institute because my neck was practically frozen on my shoulders.
Wow.
And I had lived like this for years, and I had no idea that that was what was happening for me.
Wow.
So in the course of just trying to figure out why I couldn't just be better, I started to have headaches. And I somehow knew way before I really started to delve into anything off mainstream, except for mindfulness. The first thought that I had was, this is something other. There might be something physical, but this is something emotional or spiritual or something else is going on here. And I need to dig this out.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, I had an immune system challenge that totally flipped every part of my being upside down. And so I had all kinds of physical conditions, my headache got worse. And I'm like, okay, somehow, one of our surgical adages was, don't, if you hear hoofbeats, look for horses, not zebras. So I'm like, I don't have 22 different things that are happening here. There's one thing that's tying all of these problems together, and I need to figure out what it is. And I was really on a serious single-minded search for that. My felt sense experience was that of being frozen, literally. Like my face didn't quite work. I felt like there was a layer of plexiglass between me and the world. I wanted so badly to literally feel for other people, but I couldn't. It's like, at the time I took it as a character defect. Like, why can't you be what you want to be? Why can't you practice what you're preaching?
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing research, and one of the first things I accidentally fell upon, first I started working with the fight or flight response because I'm like, this is about my nervous system being out of whack.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did some research with Peter Levine's work.
Mm-hmm.
And in one little tiny line in one of his books, he said, people who have headaches inevitably are experiencing the freeze response. And I'm like, okay,
wow,
that's what I need to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked everywhere, and this is probably 13 or 14 years ago, and there wasn't a lot of talk about the freeze response. There's plenty of fight or flight stuff, but I'm like, that's not what's happening. It's a frozen state.
Mm-hmm.
And as I continued to delve into all of this, I realized that, oh my gosh, I had had so much more trauma and unprocessed emotion and unprocessed grief than I ever would have thought.
Mm-hmm.
I picked out one or two events of my life and thought that they were significant, but really it was way, way more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I started to explore trauma in general, and understand that it wasn't necessarily the stuff that you see on the news that causes trauma, it's really anything that makes you feel unsafe, I realized that that was the key.
Mm-hmm.
And, so that's really been my life's work for the past 15 years, honestly, to try to heal myself. And then to realize that I have some unique skills to sort of parse through all of this information and find things out. And when I started discovering things that were making a difference for me, it felt irresponsible to not share it with the world.
Sure.
Now,
right.
At the same time, I wanted really to share it out there without thinking about me. So we're going to talk about all of this stuff, I hope, in the course of an hour. But one of the surgery related stories that comes to mind around this was when I was a surgery intern, one of the rotations that I was on was in the open heart surgery field. And the job of the intern was really low person on the totem pole. And I had to put on a cotton glove and hold the heart in the operating room while the cardiac surgeon would come and do the revascularization. So it was really a low person, low man or woman job, but it was really, really critical. And I took it very, very seriously. Nobody liked to do it because it was sort of boring and you got tired. And if you moved, they acted like the world was going to end, which it could have, right?
Right.
But I took it as a precious opportunity. And
Mhm.
after I had gone through all of this recognition of what really happened to me, that image came back to me. And I'm like, you know what? You have learned to hold a lot of hearts in your life
Mhm.
with tenderness and care. When have you ever held yours? It
Right.
did not occur to me that
Right.
that was part of it.
Mhm.
You can't just give and give and give and give and give. You have to come back and fill up your cup. And then I learned that true service ideally comes from overflow. And that totally blew me away because I'm
Right.
like, when
Right.
in my life have I been serving from a place of being completely full so that it just spills out?
Right.
And so the understanding of trauma and how trauma needs to have a place of safety and how safety is created in a place of compassion, all of these things sort of came together
Mhm.
and to me seemed to be the root of the dis-ease, mental, physical,
Right.
emotional, and spiritual
Oh
that
my
we're
goodness.
finding in the world today.
Wow. I am just like getting all, I mean, it's like, wow, that is just so full. So the first thing I want you to hone in on a little bit for our listeners is, you said it's not just what you see on TV. Everyday trauma, because I think that people do this all the time. And they do it, they experience it from out there, but then even the self-talk that we do traumatizes us. Can you talk a little bit about, give us an example of the kind of trauma that we really, because you were doing it every day. I mean, and you were doing it for yourself and you were doing it for your clients. And we've got tons of women that are doing it for themselves and their children. And so talk to us about what everyday trauma looks like.
Can I do what I do best and digress for a moment?
Absolutely.
Because I think this is really important, and this was the key for me.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we have our everyday traumas, but what we don't understand is that the way that we're experiencing our everyday traumas is probably dependent upon what we learned back when we were a little kid.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I think that adverse childhood events really figure strongly in our experience of present day trauma,
Mm-hmm.
because when we're little people, from birth until about 18 months, depending upon who you talk to, or potentially up to 6 years, we don't have language to explain how we feel. So we store that felt sense in the body. This is
Yeah.
a right brain. So we're storing this sense of feeling unsafe or uncared for or neglected in some way in the body. We don't have the language to talk about it. It doesn't get registered in your cognitive brain. It
Mm-hmm.
lives in your body.
Mm-hmm.
When we are traumatized as a child, we can indeed have the kind of, TV worthy child abuse.
Mm-hmm.
But we can also suffer from a felt sense of simply not being seen,
Mm-hmm.
of simply feeling like nobody hears me when I cry. Nobody's there for me. Because
Mm-hmm.
the way that we make a contact with our caregivers is by the tone of their voice, their eye gaze, and whether they're tender or whether it's frightening in some way,
Mm-hmm.
and the way that they touch. So
Mm-hmm.
if we feel like any of that is missing, we literally do not create neural pathways that allow us to feel safe as adults.
Wow. Wow.
And so this is what the big deal is,
Mm-hmm.
because I think at the core of trauma is safety or lack thereof.
Yeah.
If I don't know how to feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
then anything that happens to me in my daily life that is out of what I expected can feel traumatic to me.
Yeah.
If I have the great good fortune of having, secure attachment and being well cared for and having all of my neural pathways
Mm-hmm.
intact when I become an adult, then I'm going to be able to tolerate the day-to-day things that might knock somebody who has less intact neural pathways off their seat. Does
Wow.
that make sense?
Yes.
So
And
this
wow,
feels like a big deal.
it is huge. I mean, it can explain so much about what we're seeing out picturing around us right now. At least it does for me. So why do you, I mean, it's obvious, but I want you to speak into why it's so critically important to begin thinking this way and create a new paradigm based on that connection. I mean, can you bridge the gap from what's going on with us personally to the big picture?
Well, I think what's going on with us personally is a result of and the cause of the big picture.
Right.
And so if we don't, if there's, with the number of people in the world that do not have their basic needs met, like in this moment,
right,
we're creating a place of safety that is, there's no safety, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no safety net. There's no food, there's no support, there's no shelter, there's no money.
Mm-hmm.
If we feel unsafe, there will be no capacity to connect with another human being.
Mm-hmm.
If we are unsafe or living in survival mode, we will not be able to trust other people.
Mm-hmm.
If we are unsafe and living in survival mode, thinking our life is in danger every single moment, there will be no healing.
Mm-hmm.
When we're living like that, it's taking an enormous toll on the physical body, the emotional body, the energetic body, because we're spending all of our resources to try to find that safety that is so elusive.
Mm-hmm.
If we can't find it, we're not going to be able to create the conditions for healing.
Right.
So safety and moving out of survival mode is critical. And if you look at what's happening in this moment, there's no safety, there's no certainty.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the collective sense of angst and fear is overwhelming. Whether we think we're connected or not, I assure you, energetically, you might be having your own personal experience, but it is being, expanded upon by the energy that's surrounding us, really, from the whole world.
Mm-hmm. So that's
so.
Keep going.
Yeah, so I'll just share, we could talk for days about this. But one of the things that I really want to share, which is just so powerful to me, and I think relates to all of this, are some words from Parker Palmer, who is a Quaker teacher and writer.
Mm-hmm.
I think he wrote an article back around one of the bombings, whichever one that was.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what he said. He said, "Left untended, our hearts break into a million shards. And those shards are thrown like fragment grenades at the ostensible source of their pain.
Mm-hmm.
Violence is what happens when we don't know what to do with our own suffering."
Wow, that is so true. I mean, it's like we're seeing it everywhere. So let's bring this back home. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. What did you start to say?
I was just going to say, if you start to understand the power of safety in being able to connect, in being able to relate, we can start to understand why people are behaving the way that they are.
Mm-hmm.
And even though we might like and need to hold them accountable, we can do it in a different way than just thinking they're being bad or mean or evil. We start to understand what the root of this is. And if we can meet people at that level, like, oh my gosh, for this to unnerve you in this way, there must really be something going on that's causing you a lot of pain. How can we help you?
Right.
That's gonna be a completely different situation than if we're blaming and shaming and doing all of the things that are the root of this behavior in the first place.
Exactly.
We're just.
Wow, that seems so big. And can you bring it back into what can we do to begin? Because I'm assuming that you're going to say we have to shift here first. What are the practices that you did to help yourself? And then how do we spread that out to the broader community? But where do we start?
Well, just to add another element of the violence, when I first did my training with John Kabat-Zinn, I remember being stunned when he said to me, to deny the experience that you're having is a form of violence to yourself. And I was like, whoa, I never really thought about it like that. And so I think that where this all starts for us to learn to practice and to be together in a different kind of way is to let whatever we're feeling be okay. Doesn't mean that there's not work to do around it, but instead of running away from the discomfort, actually turning toward it with curiosity, like understanding that whatever is making me react needs my attention rather than needs to be gotten rid of. To accept that whatever's making me feel something is information that I need to make a decision. And to start to realize that the only time I'm going to be able to act in a skillful way is from this moment. So how can I do practices to keep me here, which is the role, I think, of the energy work and my mindfulness-based stress reduction. So that's just a little bit. Ask me, I think you had a more specific.
Well, it's like, so when you think of everything that's happening in the world within the context of what you've just taught us, it's like, oh my Lord, how are we ever gonna, shift the tide, because the tide is going in one big direction. So what are practices we can do? Because obviously we got to start here. We got to start with ourselves. How did you heal yourself? And how can we begin to heal ourselves and others? How do we bring it home? And then how do we help other people?
Well, it has to come home first before we can help other people. Otherwise, I think that's part of the problem here.
Right.
Part of the problem is that we are not doing work and we're spreading our unhealed stuff into the world.
Yeah, for sure.
So it has to start here. And I think the way that it starts here is to realize that, as Lady Gaga once said, we spend a lot of time cultivating relationships with other people, and we don't cultivate relationships with ourselves. How do we learn to accept that until I embrace what has led me to this point? I'm really going to be expending a lot of energy trying to keep it out of my awareness. How can I learn to sit still with the fact that I have had trauma and pain and grief in my life, and start to look at it with curiosity rather than fear? And that's really what the mindfulness practices help us do. I think one of the most important things that mindfulness offers us is the opportunity to stop. To try to move from the neurologic perspective out of this fight or flight and reactive place to a place of being embodied, so that I feel my heart rate going up and I'm like, wait a minute, what just happened? If I'm willing to catch what's going on at that moment, I'm going to have different control and power than if the horse gets out of the proverbial barn. So the body is always going to tell you what's happening first. And if we're living as we do in this culture in our heads, we're missing a lot of information. And plus then the violent thing, we talk ourselves, my heart starts pounding and I'm like, oh, that's ridiculous. You're not anxious. Well, let me tell you something. If my heart is pounding, I am. I don't have to like it, but it's true because my body speaks the truth. My body can't lie. So the more time I spend honoring my felt sense, the more time I'm going to create a little bit of space so that then I can say, wow, something just made me really, get anxious, and I can pause. What I'm literally doing is shifting resources, blood flow, energy from the most primitive part of my brain up to the prefrontal cortex that allows me to go, okay, wait a minute. I just got triggered. Something just happened. Let me pause. Is there something actually happening in this moment that needs to be attended to? Or did that feeling or thought or person remind me of this old habit that is deeply ingrained in my nervous system? And it's just started like playing like a tape that just gets pushed when you push play. It's the same old thing over and over and over. Every time I hear that, I do that. Every time I see that, I do this. We're interrupting those automatic pilot reactions because we're present in the body, in the moment.
Wow.
Now here's the next problem though. When you have been traumatized in ways large and small, a lot of times it feels unsafe to be in the body because either because the body has been harmed or because it's so unfamiliar that you just can't be there.
Mhm.
And when that's the case, I find doing some energy work to really be more helpful, because it sort of takes you out of the personal realm and just say, listen, stuck energy causes discomfort. So if I just work at this from an energetic perspective, like, whoa, something really knocked me off, what kind of energetic shift in my environment has happened that I might be able to attend to? It might be something as simple as I feel like I'm in my head and I can't think straight, and understanding that if I walk outside barefoot and put my feet on the ground, I might be able to discharge some of that energy into the earth. And now, okay, now I understand what just happened.
Mhm.
And
Wow.
I'm doing it from a different perspective so that I'm not triggering myself with my own reactivity.
Right.
That's sort of the trick. If I'm already afraid of how I feel, if I've already been suppressing that for all kinds of reasons, then
Mhm.
it's going to be threatening when feelings come up that I can't control. So
Exactly.
if I can cultivate the attitude of the witness and step away from that a little bit and say it's just energy,
Mhm.
and there's energy that needs to move in a different way than it's moving, and maybe I can do some exercises to make that happen.
Mhm.
That to me has helped me come back into my body and do my meditation practices, which allows me to sit here with the strength of the grief, of the world situation, of
Mhm.
my own personal unhealed stuff. I can
Mhm.
sit here with curiosity and not go off into reactivity because I'm using a combination of these practices.
Wow. How long have you been practicing?
I've been doing mindfulness meditation for 20 years and teaching for the last 16.
Mhm.
I've been doing energy work for the past 5, and I truly started the energy work because just sitting down in meditation, while I could find that place of quiet, it didn't feel like it was going anywhere deep to actually uncover, things that needed to be uncovered. And I think part of that is just the strength of my nervous system to say, well, we're not going to go there.
Right?
But when I settle my body first, when I settle my nervous system first, then I have more leeway in
Mhm.
looking at things that might otherwise be overwhelming to me.
Mhm. Right. Wow. So, talk to us because I know you have several gifts that you're going to give our listeners, and you're doing it for specific purposes. And so I want you to speak into each one of those. What are you offering and why?
So the first thing I'm going to offer is a loving kindness
Mhm.
meditation. And that's sort of an odd word, but I like it because it's odd.
Mhm.
It's better to use words for me that you don't have a preconceived notion about.
Right?
So loving kindness, hold yourself like you would hold someone that you love.
Mhm.
Um, again, it's about cultivating a relationship with yourself. And it's only after you can understand and tolerate and be present with yourself that
Mhm.
you're going to be able to do it for other people. That's really the point.
Right.
If I'm impatient with myself when I make a mistake, I'm not going to tolerate yours.
Mhm. Mhm.
So, as counterintuitive as it seems, I have to start with me if I want to serve you.
Mhm.
Again, true service is going to come from overflow. It's going to come from my clarity and my groundedness. I have to do my work if I want to help you.
Right. Mhm.
Show me where I need to do work, and my inner work is going to show me how I need to relate to you.
Mhm.
And we let that just be a continuous back and forth communication energetically so that we're doing the work that we need to be of the greatest service to ourselves in the world. So the loving kindness meditation is nothing more than settling in and imagining that you're in the presence of someone you love and really feeling what that feels like and
Mhm.
wishing for them to have everything that they need.
Wow.
And then expanding. I like to think of yoga for the heart, then expanding and saying, what about all these people that I don't even know? Like, I don't know them. I don't have any big feelings, but what if I realize that they're just like me? What
Mhm.
if, just for now, I offer to them the same thing that I might offer to the ones that I love? And
Mhm.
then to crack open the heart a little more, what if I take the difficult people in my life and realize, what if they're behaving like this because they've been traumatized? because they have unhealed pain and grief, because they don't feel safe. I don't have to agree with their behavior, but what if I speak to them at that place of their basic goodness? What if I talk to them where their little spark of kindness burns somewhere far, far, far away? What if I speak to that? What would happen if I engage that way? And then what would happen if, just because I wish this for everybody everywhere with absolutely no exception. So it's just slowly expanding the capacity of the heart, and the energetic field of the heart is enormous. It is enormous. And if I can just open myself up to everybody in the world and their plight, I'm going to be able to meet them on a different level if I've met myself than if I'm not doing my own work.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. So I'm just, everything, the wheels are turning, because I love that you're doing that for the one person, but if we had lots of folks, like all the folks on this call doing that, the shift on the planet would be enormous. So, wow, thank you for that. So there were two more. What are the other two?
So the other thing is just a 17-minute version of me doing Donna Eden's daily energy routine, because I find that, again, understanding that the angst and the discomfort and the anger and fear in the world is an energy, and we may or may not have the privilege of shutting down from it because we've had enough, but it's still coming in, energetic. And so if we can do these simple little practices every day to just sort of clear the energy field, to take the static away, just to see whether or not that changes how you move through the day. So it's my interpretation of her work with some explanations about what each of the different exercises do. They don't have to be done all at once, and you can learn them and then apply them in the heat of the moment, which I think is really important.
Wow. This just sounds so practical. I mean, it sounds like something very necessary that folks need to be. It's like trauma management. You know, it's the elixir that we need to really support ourselves, because right now I think a lot of folks are experiencing just trauma from just everything that's happening. It feels like somebody took the world and shook it. And we're all reeling a little bit.
That is exacerbating your unhealed trauma, right?
Right.
That's really the things that's growing exponentially.
Right.
Yeah. Which is the reason for gift number 3.
Okay. Yes. Go.
Number 3. Yeah. Gift number 3 is Yoga Nidra. And I know I those of your audience who have heard me before got a Yoga Nidra last time, but here's the thing. What Yoga Nidra does is it puts you in a place of complete physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual relaxation. And when you do that, you create a place of safety and balance and connection and ease that then allows whatever energetic shifts need to happen, whatever suppressed emotion needs to move, all of it will just go without your having to actively do something, which I think is something that we can all use, is just rest without having to work so hard. It has the physiological effect of 2 to 8 hours of restful sleep. But the real big deal here is to create the conditions that allow your body, mind, and spirit and heart to heal in the way that they need to. Because I bet whatever you're trying, despite your best intention, you don't actually know what it needs, because you're going to have bias. You're going to have, I want to fix this thing, but not that thing. And if you open and surrender to the wisdom of your body and your mind and your spirit, your energy body, it'll fix itself.
Right.
So I think that all 3 of these offerings are about sort of surrendering to the wisdom that you already have and allowing your own innate wisdom to make the adjustments and shifts to bring you into a greater state of balance, and to understand that balance is not static like we hope we like to think it is. It's not. And the more in tune we are, the more we can be like a reed or a blade of grass. We can feel as soon as we start to tip out of balance, apply one of these techniques and come back to center. Not with judgment, because it's not right or wrong, just because we have the awareness of our capacity to make changes in the moment, to create an optimum way of being present in the world, which is really for the benefit of all of us.
Right? Oh, wow. So Gina, you see clients privately and teach classes, is that correct? How does somebody,
And of course
what?
everything's on Zoom
Perfect.
now, so
Yeah, so you
I'm
see
doing
people remotely. And if someone wanted to make an appointment with you, they can just go to the website?
actually just email me. Yes.
Perfect. Perfect.
Yeah, because I
Perfect.
do a lot of individual work now.
That's
And
awesome.
what my individual work is sort of what we just did. It's like going through all of these things and sort of crafting a specific prescription, if you will, for your particular conditions using energy work, Ayurveda, mindfulness, yoga nidra.
Wow.
Yeah.
That just sounds amazing. So I'm really, I can't thank you enough. This has been such valuable information that I don't, like I said, everyone, she's the perfect blend of science and esoteric wisdom. So Gina, thank you for all the wisdom you brought. And I just want to, I've used the meditations and they're awesome. I want to encourage everyone to just really plug in and connect with Gina and her wisdom and really give yourself that gift. It's, I can't tell you what you're offering the world. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. I think the more we can do our individual work, the better. And in fact, I think that, if you're so inclined, I'd like to invite everybody to imagine signing a sacred contract to do this work on yourself for the benefit of the world, because it's not possible to do work on yourself without benefiting the world.
Right.
So with this time, when so much is needed, even though it seems like the thing to do is go out there and do something big, what if the answer is to really go in and do something equally big that's going to impact everybody? So for those that are busy and overwhelmed, truly your inner work is through you a gift to the world. You're offering your healing to the world as if you were, I learned in my yoga teacher training that we should consider ourselves to be a single cell in a giant organism. And if we were to do that, then we would understand a little more deeply that our well-being truly does impact the whole. And it is, again, our sacred responsibility to do our work to keep ourselves well because we impact the whole.
Exactly. Wow. Thank you, Gina. This has been a delight.
Thank you. And congratulations on this beautiful gathering. I'm so certain that it's gonna change the world.
Thank you.